The resource person for this session is Dr. T.P. Shashikumar, who is a former scientist in the Space Department and was Deputy Director at Director General of Security, who chose to retire and focus on mentoring young people in academics and towards nation building. A mathematician with knowledge on many of the engineering streams, and was director at UGC Academic Staff College for educating teachers. He is an author of many books. A few months back, released 6 books of early child care education. He is the disciple of late Brahm Sri KPC Anujan Bhatta Tripad and Himalayan Master Rama tradition, Mahamangaleshwar Swami Ved Bharati. His teaching philosophy emphasizes adaptive edutainment in activity-filled classrooms that redefine learning and teaching to focus on goals, roles, and values. He has reached over 1 million teachers, parents, students, as the acronym for his name TPS stand for T for teachers, P for parents, and S for students. He was most loved by the student community for his enormous speeches and enchanting personality. He attracted the teaching fraternity too through his lectures in public and professional colleges and schools across the world. And he's also active in teaching training sessions and civil service preparation. Dr. TPS is an innovative and creative thought leader who promotes a balanced life across the physical, emotional, intellectual, social, and spiritual aspects of life. It's really our pleasure to have Dr. TPS as a resource person for this session with the title Concepts and Practices of Physical Sciences in the Rich Tapestry of Indian Knowledge System. And Dr. TPS specific title for this session is Indian Scientific Heritage. So now to Dr. TPS.
Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Ajnanatimirandasya Nananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilidam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Sadashiva Samarambha Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmat Acharya Paryandam Vande Guru Parampara. Namaskaram and thank you, the VJIT IQAC, for giving me this opportunity to talk on Indian knowledge system. And in this Zoom meeting, generally is boring because you don't see anybody. It's as good as recording a session and putting it in the YouTube. And there are plenty of my talk on Indian heritage on different aspects. But every lecture is a chance for me to remind myself and think what India
Recording in
had
progress.
and what is the contribution of India in great scientific scenario apart from other cultural heritage, religious, spiritual, artistic, etc. etc. I must thank my sister Lalita, who is always kind and loving, and such few contacts give me such invitations for conferences, though I am not that famous in the IKS era, because nowadays it has become a fashion to talk on IKS and conduct seminars and sessions, which I started probably 24 years back. I was initiated into this by late Dr. N. Gopalakrishnan, who was an IICT scientist, who has got an institute called Indian Institute of Scientific Heritage, wherein I was an advisory board member. Through his lectures, I invited him in Hyderabad for a few days and stayed with me during the early 2022. We had lectures throughout different scientific centers in India. That is where I learned probably the basics, the kindergarten classes on Indian scientific heritage. The Bharat, the great nation with a lot of spirituality, philosophy, science, medicine, literature, architecture, sculpture, painting, different streams of life from statesmen to soldiers, wherein I am going to dwell upon the greatness in science. But science is not strictly separate from religion, philosophy, many kinds of thoughts which people have. I think Annapurna want to talk something regarding food because Annapurna is hungry or what? Is the time for Annapurna's time, right?
Dr. TPS, the lunch time is already over. I request all the participants to be in mute mode in order to listen to Dr. TPS. So at the end of the session, we can have an interactive session where you can unmute yourself and thank you.
And probably the video is on by few people. I'll feel happy when seeing the faces of people. And I wish people are serious, taking notes so that you can have some questions, Otherwise, I think the lecture goes endless. I'm still keeping the lecture notes which I have taken 20 years back. This is my reference in case if I require to look at something. So India had a lot of literature, art, poetry, craft, trade, commerce, different politics. Maybe when we talk about the politics, we cannot forget Chanakya, Kaudilya, Arthashastra, the historic civilizations and mankind's, which is now not part of India, probably the Bharat. What went wrong is essentially to be discussed because the Westerners, when they came and then started writing the history, the Bharatavarsha, which lived for millions of years, 192 crores of years, 198 crores of years. There is a 6 crores of years difference. What computed from the Manvantara to the modern age. Therefore, people start asking questions. The other day, I was talking on some subject on the reel. I made a statement and somebody started asking. The problem is people are educated with the Western knowledge, wherein the AD BC categorization has put Vedic age as 7,000 to 4,000 years. Probably 3,000 years is the time when Ramayana and Mahabharata period. Development of the Saraswati River, the Indus Valley civilization, etc., between 3000 to 2000 BC. There is a complete chaos on the timing which the Westerners have given, and therefore a pure researcher in Indian heritage. I'm sure I'm talking on the platform of Indian knowledge system, the Bharatiya traditional knowledge system, the Vijnana Sambat, the Jnana Sambat which we have. The Eastern philosophy and Eastern mythology. The mythology have got two meanings. Myth means something which is in the Sankalpa, which can be a Kahani story. Ology is science. So it's a mix of both. Assume that you are on that platform and then start discussing all the Western 7,000, 4,000 BC of Vedic age is not valid because today is the Kali Yuga, which is 18,72,000 and 10 days. 18,72,010 is the day for today, which already have got 5,000 years past from the Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga started on 18th February 3102, where the Dwapara Yuga ended. So that means you should have the Kala Ganana, the time period which is described for Kali Yuga, which is supposed to be 4,32,000 years. So 4,32,000 years multiplied by 2 will become Treta Yuga. Therefore, it becomes 8,64,000 years. Multiply by 3 is the Treta Yuga. Dwapara Yuga, Treta Yuga, and before that is Satya Yuga. So when you multiply 3, 432 multiplied by 3 will become 12,96,000 years. And add this another 4,32,000 years, that is the Satya Yuga. So, how do you talk about 43,20,000 years? It is easy because 4,32,000 multiplied by 10 is 43,20,000 years. People must be thinking how I am remembering. It's very easy to remember because 1 multiplied, then 2 multiplied, then 3 multiplied, then 4 multiplied will become 10. So it's multiply Kali Yuga with the 10 will become 1 Mahayuga. That happens to be half day of Brahma, and 2 Brahma together will become 1 day, and multiplied by 120 years, multiplied by 360 years is 1 Manyantara. This is a regular chanting by every priest in the temple. Etc. etc. You can hear him chanting. That is actually giving the time, and he relates us to the place where you are. That means the time and space concept is a great scientific concept in every ritual India had, in which we got talking about Brahmandana, Madhye, Jambudyube, Bharatagande, Bharatavarshe, Meroha, Dachine, Parshve. If you are in Andhra Pradesh, Andhra Desham, instead of that, Godavari, Parshve, and they will give you your municipality number, flat number, apartment number, road number, and tell you you are from this place. That is what happens in a temple in everyday puja when you go to a temple for a puja. See, look at the concept of time and space, because physics, natural science cannot talk about anything without referring you to the time and space. That is the basic reference system. And you can see this in our acharas, Ishwara Sankalpas. It is a Sankalpa. Sankalpa is which is imaginary. So Ishwara Sankalpa, the word itself says that it's an imaginary, conceptual, great feeling which everybody has to have, and which acharya is what we practice, and anushtana is what we consider it as a system which is given for everyone to follow, but may not follow because again time and space wise it can vary. Therefore, anushtana is different and acharya is different. When you look at inside this, the real granthas, the textbooks, the shastra, we can see the Paitrukam, the heritage, which every one of us have a responsibility to learn, teach, and spread across. If we don't do, who else will do it? When somebody else does it, it will have a different problem. That is why today at least people have got some concern about the Indian knowledge system. Thank you for this great feeling people have quite late, but nothing is lost. Nothing much is lost. Though we have different Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda, Atharva Veda, and under which you have got different Brahmanas. The Rig Veda Brahmanas, Samaveda Brahmanas, Atharveda Brahmanas, Aranyakas, which are the Rigvedia, Yajurvedia. For Samaveda and Atharva Veda, there is no Aranyakas. Upanishads, which are like question and answer. Why did I say this? Because no textbook is a complete textbook unless there is a question and answer. It's like a guide book for everyone. So every teacher, every acharya must have taught a lot of things, and then each disciple, each student from the master gets the knowledge. They ask a lot of questions. So question is the basic relation between a teacher and a student. So each student in their interpretation, what they perceived as knowledge, asked a lot of questions. So you can see great knowledge books, not from the three Vedas, and probably Yajurveda, I don't call it as in that manner. So three Vedas plus the Upanishads, which are all part of the great Upanishads. The Krishna Yajurveda Upanishads, Samavedya Upanishads, Shukla Yajurveda Upanishads, Rigveda Upanishads, hundreds of them. And Atharva Veda Upanishad, much, much larger in number, and in which the method of teaching is being called as Shiksha, Niruktam, Vyakaranam, Chandashastram, Kalpashastram, and each has got different distributaries, Jyotisham and Muhurtam, Kalaganana, how the time factor is given. All these are Vedangas. And we have Upavedas, Arthashastram, which is an economics book. Dhanurvedam, it is a war dictionary. The other day in the North Bengal University Philosophy Day, I was talking about the war heritage of India, in which I got a lot of Dhanurvedas. the Gandharva Veda, Ayurveda, which is a science of life. Sthapathya Veda is what is actually the construction, architectural structure. So the Upavedas are the true science, probably the practical science which we wanted to learn. I happen to be a Sthapati who understood or learned a little bit of the Vastu Shastra and the Agama Shastra. Agama Shastra for temple construction, Vastu for houses, dwellings, put together becomes the Sthapatya Veda. So Sthapatya Veda have to be seen as a whole science. What happened unfortunately in India is people have learned a little bit of here and there and started practicing and misusing the traditional old heritage science into a money making business and misinterpreted and then talked about lot of belief systems. Belief systems are not part of Bharatiya Shastra. There is no belief. The word belief itself is wrong. There is only knowledge. Knowledge has to come. That is where in the beginning when I chanted the mantra, Atnana Timirandasya Nananjana Shalakaya Chakshu Rinmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. My eyes have got a blurred vision, little bit of knowledge, and I think that is the real knowledge. That is how most of the people misinterpret it. So what is Acharya's job, was Guru's job? Nananjana Shalakaya. Give a kajal which will not make the eye beautiful, but give them a beautiful vision. And that teacher who gives me the real vision is my Guru or Acharya. So you have to learn from that tradition. I happen to be in the introduction, my sister Lilita was talking about my tradition, the Vedic Guru Brahmashri KPC and my Sthapathya Veda Guru who is the Acharya, Keshava Acharya. And such people have taught me from the basic Upavedas. And there they have distributed these knowledge in the Purana Idihasas, which probably people are more well versed, but understand that is only Itihasa Purana, is only a story which somebody has created. And in that story, whatever we talked about Upaveda, Aranyaka, Brahmana, Veda, Upanishads, the content is put in a story manner. So we have Vishnu Puranam and Padma Puranam, Vamana Puranam, Matsya Puranam, Markandeya Puranam, Agni Puranam, Vayu Puranam, whatever Purana you want, all these are only stories. So we, as a scientific person who understand these, must understand there is a distinct difference between what is exact knowledge and how the knowledge has been put into Purana Itihasas, where people have to tell that as a story and don't believe the story, take the essence from the story. That is more important. In which what you will see, the darshanas are real knowledgeable systems. So later came darshanas, Nyaya Shastram, Purva Mimamsa, Uttara Mimamsa, Yoga Darshana, Vaisheshikam, and all these have got, Nyayam has got a lot of logic, right? So similarly, there are a lot of smritis and shrutis. And smriti is what is really written and shruti is what is heard. So there can be different versions on shruti, but smriti is what is to be understood. See, for example, Vasishta Smriti, Yoga Vasishtam in Ramayana comes as the smriti what we have. So the Vyasa Smriti and Gautama Smriti and Dakshina Smriti and Daksha Smriti and Shatapada Smriti, Brahaspati Smriti, all these you can see in the Puranas also in different version. So probably the Smriti becomes more stronger in its content than what is in the Purana Idihasas, which is to be understood very carefully. So the Idihasas, the Valmiki Ramayana and the Vyasa Mahabharata is not the scientific textbook from which you should quote. Yes, you can quote it because it contains a lot of yoga, dhyanam, and Chaitanya, Nrittam, all the Sankita, all the different instruments which are used by the Bharatiya Sankeetam, all the food systems which we have, the Sanskritam, the Vastu, Ayurveda, all these can be seen in bits and pieces there, because you can see in the Ramayana, you can see how the somebody gets treated by the medicines. All these have got the reference in the Vedangas, right? We are moving in a world where we have the ability to little bit of ability to understand the Shastra behind all this. And IKS is such a model in which we have to do a lot of research to understand what is that essence which is being talked about this. See, for example, I wanted to quote probably the most famous activity which people do today, and what is India for the Western world is the yoga. And most of the people who start doing yoga asana, yoga is not a yoga asana, that's why I'm making it very clear. You must look at each technical term here which I am specifying. Put yoga, DrTPS, DrTPS continuous. Then you will see how I interpreted the yoga, how I interpreted Bhagavad Gita, how I interpreted Mahabharata, Ramayana, or maybe the scriptures of Shankaracharya, Ramana Maharshi, and all that. Write these names, DrTPS, Ramana, you will get some reference on where I am talking about them. So the yoga, when I generally talk about yoga, people think that Patanjali is the guru and you do a 3 months program and then start calling yourself a yogacharya and start giving lectures and then start teaching people. It's a big mistake, because yoga is not the yoga asana alone. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi has got a great lot of science within that, in which Yama is non-violence. Only one step Mahatma Gandhi reached and he became the world famous person for the non-violence. Niyama is self-discipline. So unless you have self-discipline, Yama, Niyama, then comes Asana. But what happens is people do Shirshasana and then say, I learned yoga. Actually, Patanjali's Yoga Shastra doesn't have Shirshasana at all. It doesn't have all the gymnastics what people are doing today. These all came from the later part, Iyengar's modern yoga in Mysore Palace. So what happened to the Indian knowledge system? Without understanding the basic science and which it has been developed, it is being misinterpreted and used and made so much popularity, and everybody can do this to earn money. India has become the most probably much worse than the neighboring countries in its happiness index. I'm not saying the happiness index measurement they have got a good scale, but even if we don't have, what happens is we are not learning. The IKS have to be done. Many people do seminar, webinar, and then finished. The knowledge and stuff. No. What I am aiming at probably is at least few students who listen to this, who teachers who wanted to understand this, do little bit of learning and go inside each one of these and understand what is that basic essence. Go to the root, but not go to the Western converted, inverted, misinterpreted knowledge which is being spread today in the name of these sciences. One of the example which I said is yoga. Yogena chittasya. The yoga is for chit, for the manas. Padena vacha. The communication skill has to be good. Malam sharijasya cha vaidyakena. I salute that guru who has got the psychological knowledge. I am a psychotherapist. I have got learned psychology from the Western science, but I consider the Vasishtha as the guru for the psychology in India. And probably Patanjali is one who made it practical in this world. So yogena chittasya padena vacha, communication has to be good. Malam sharirasya cha vaidyakena yopa karotam pravaram muninam Patanjalim pranjalirana tosmi. I salute to that guru who is good in a psychology, who is good in communication skill, who is good as a doctor. But tell me, how many people while chanting this sloka understood the real meaning? That is where we miss. So it is not to hear and then have half knowledge. I believe that people should go into the literature, understand the language in which the Rishi spoke about it. Vani Varshanam Vedanam Murtihi. Understand each word is a Murti by God, the concept itself. Surendriyani Samyamya Yo Dharmam Samprabhadyade Tasya Pratna Pradishtida Vijnanam Prapyade Dhruvam. The ultimate is to get that essence of knowledge and have that wisdom, so that the observation and experiment which the ancient India had is understood very carefully. Vedanta Vijnanam Akhilam Dharma Shastram Yathartham. Yadarthagam. Actually, that essence of Indian knowledge system is interdisciplinary. Vedanta Vijnanamakhilam. Interdisciplinary. So, what had happened in the modern knowledge? Everybody becomes so specialized. They don't understand the relation between all the different knowledge systems. So, see, for example, one of the Upanishad mantra is Yada Pinde Tada Brahmande. As the atom is, as the Brahmandam is. We'll come to that knowledge where when we share, when we wanted to see the atom, we need a microscope. When we wanted to see the Brahmandam, the universe, the cosmos, we need a telescope. Both are zooming in and looking at it. There is no difference. One mantra which says, what you have in the center of the universe and then lot of maybe center of sun and solar system and lot of planets going around in same speed, same structure, same style, the nucleus and the electrons going around it. The philosophy is same, the theorem is same, the concept is same, and what is in between is full of gum. Gum is space. I'm a gum scientist, space scientist. The word gum is also important. Sanskritam has got a great Vedanta Vijnana Makhilam Dharma Shastram Yadarthagam. See, you must understand the word has got great meaning. Gam means space. Sukham means good space. Dukkham means bad space. So space means the free space what we have. Which is there in the atom, it is there in the Brahmandam. It is also there in your manas. In your mind, your feeling, there is a lot of great space. We are not filling it up. You fill it up with Sarva Vijnana Bhavediha. And that, what you fill it becomes your knowledge. Nanasya dhara bharadasya prasaridaha vidyanam vikasaha kruto vishwe pradishthidaha. The legacy of Indian science in the global influence of the Bharatiya scientific heritage is more important, which is there in astronomy, mathematics, the cosmos, and the concept from the zero to the cosmos. Understand? The medicine, the heliocentrism, and the surgery, the Ayurveda, the concept of immunity, what we have, the atomic theory, alchemical, the principles of chemistry, the town planning, a lot of examples, the civil engineering. Emphasis on the observation is more important because we in Andhra, though those who speak Andhra, we have got a great university under a great chemistry man, and that chemistry man was also a Ayurvedic man, in which we have got a great university under the Nagarjuna. Nagarjuna says, Sakshat Anubhava Irdrushto na Sruto na Guru Darshidaha Lokanam Upakaraya Edat Sarvam Pradarshidam. It is an interdisciplinary approach in medical science and chemical science. That is why we have got a fertilizer and as well as a medical shop under the Nagarjuna's name, in which we have got a university in the Nagarjuna University. The Indian science had a legacy which such people like Nagarjuna understood from the traditional science and implemented into medical science and chemical sciences. And he clearly wrote a lot of books in chemistry, Rasarnavakalpam, Rasavarna Samuchayam, etc., in which he says, Sakshat Anubhavair Drushto na Sruto na Guru Darshidaha Lokanam Upakaraya Etat Sarvam Pradarshidam. What is useful for human being is what is called science. Lokanam Upakaraya. And that need not be experimentable. That can be experienceable, also can be called a science. So Shastram and the science is not the same. So though we call it as Indian scientific heritage, the scientific word is good, but not the word science. Because in India, Natya Shastram, dance becomes a Shastram, and Sangeetam becomes a Shastram. The song becomes a Shastram in which the meter, the measurement, the construction of the Natya platforms, all these have got a lot of mathematics and construction science within that. They understood all this. And not from the stage on which you dance. The cosmic dance, people understood. Jodir Nabhida Vishdhita Apsudhyahyam Prutubhyam Cha Suryam Chandrasu Saha Nakshatram Deepti Mischindaha. Nakshatram Deepti Mischindaha. The whole universe is staying like that, is what we call it as Milky Way galaxy. Krishnam Jagadettutsaram Shunyam Shakti Samyuktam Shunyena cha Sahas Samstha Shunyam Purnam Prachakshate. Aryabhata talks about the Shunyam, the zero. What makes that And he is not a man who talked about only about the shunyam. Those who talked about the smallest zero or the shunyam or the brahmanam, he also talked about the whole Vishnu. Vishnu is not the god Vishnu. Vishnu means the earth. Suryasya madhyam gam Vishnum Brajamanam Swadhajasa Suryam Vayam Prabhaptyemam Suryoyam Pushade Harim. That exactly the method in which the existence of the solar system, in which the cosmic arrangements are made, in which the ideal central location of the Surya and the earth, the other planets like earth going around it was really understood. Sarve bhavant, and those people who live on this earth need to be very happy. So it is not the science of the astronomy, astrology, how those planets influence people was understood. That is what the application of astronomy into astrology came. And it is not just that. You realize that the ancient Ayurveda system had got a lot of medicinal, and that system did not work only as a physical level. It also understood the mental level. Not even that, it understood the spiritual level, which that spirituality which is governed by the planetary systems around us. Therefore, the astrological science, I am an astrologer for last so many years. I understood, learned the wisdom and the ancient healing practices, most of them in tandem with how people can become happy. So, what is the purpose of all these? Sarve bhavantu suganaha sarve santu niramaya sarve bhadrani pashyantu ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhavet. How do I take care of people with full happiness? Ayurveda Shalyatantram Chaduro Agni Vidyade. It is the inside human body, the Agni, the digestive system which we have. Tatraiva Gurudaram Shalyam Drishti Pradoshanashanam. How do that dosham, all the Shalya Chikilsa, how do the surgical practices, how do the removal of unwanted, the Sushrutas methodology of removing, constructing, stitching, including plastic surgery, sort of things can be done. You can see one reference where in 1780s, where the London, one of the journal quoted a facial surgery system which has happened. It is not Sushrutas. People have used it later to that for doing some small repairing on the faces also. So probably we have lost many of the methodologies, but people have kept it until the late 1700s also for the Britain to quote what happened in India. Balam balena samraksham balam vidyadachayat roganam pariharartham balam tu kapha pittata. Kapham pittam, all these have to be balanced so that the roganam pariharartham, all the diseases can be cured by balancing the lifestyle. And they understood what and up to what level people have to look at the system which we have got in our body, and how much they have gone up to Paramanu. The Paramanu is the atom level. The Paramanu Rano Paramanu Samyuktaha Paraspara Samyogena Tasya Drishyade Surupam. A body or a cell or a person is not independent of the Paramanu. Many Paramanus put together, that means the cell system, the internal internalized looking at what is inside the body and how it reacts. All these were understood. Raso viharascha krudascha karmane loha vikraya chayasasya samadhena. The chemical systems which we have, which is so much sophisticated, understood the Rasa Shastra, the alchemy of which the metallurgical operations which happened in the base metals, and the similar thing in the Sharira Shastram, how the chemistry development happens in the different significant experiments on the scientific content of the chemistry. That was understood very carefully. The civilization, when we talked about, I am not quoting the number which shows by probably 1000 BC and such numbers you can see from 3000 BC to 1000 BC, which is unbelievable because the Bharatavarsha is much, much older. In that presumption only I am talking. But when you look at references, probably you will get in between 3000, the Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Indus Valley civilization, etc., etc. Because the Sakshat Pramanam, what you have got the pramanam which is given for the construction of houses. Hindu Sabhyadayam Nagara Yojana Vishala Griha Nirmana Vyavastha Susamvida Yukta Jala Vikasa Pranali Sakshat Pramanam. How all the different elements like brick, water, all these have to be mixed together to construct your construction method. That means it depends on the Panchabhutas. Vijnanam Loka Vikasasya Pujyasya Loha Mayasya Gunai Takshanayo Dritya Loha Nirmanam. They understood how to make these lohas, all the metals, and the woods metal, the steel which we have. The ancient India, the woods steel is very famous, which has got a very specific structure. So how Kala Ganana can be done? Understand the modern steel and the traditional steel have got a different style. The erosion which happens. I'm not talking about the iron pillar and such examples. I'm sure many people must have heard many times. So I'm avoiding all that. I'm going into the core knowledge which probably people would not have been looked at when they looked at the engineering and technology for civil engineering, etc., etc. So where the construction material like um, uh, the all the five elements put together, they understood carefully. Metal they understood. Then the construction architecture, Vastukala Shilpani Nisarge Nirmana Kaushalam Darshayati. How the Nirmana Kaushalam, the architectural method, and that is Tajurevya Mahatam Stavatya Vedam. Brahadishwarasya Nirmidihi. Brahadishwara is one who made this construction. That is how the Brahadishwara temple. Recently, I had been to the Brahadishwara temple. In Brahadishwara's temple, you can see the whole construction mechanism which is being explained in the Sthabatya Veda, and that is a great example in the Tanjavur. No, the Brahadishwara temple you must see. You have to look at the whole temples in India to understand the science and technology development India had. Don't look at the architecture and the temple and the statue and the deity and the puja and the shastra and the religion, but look at the methodology in which they have constructed such things, right? They understood how the shadow has to be, because you go to Thiruvananthapuram, where I am from Kerala. Thiruvananthapuram temple, we have got the hole on the top, the main entry, in which the sunlight passes exactly through the hole where no shadow is created. The other day I was there in 150 200 kilometer away from Hyderabad. We have got the Chaya temple. The Chaya temple, where we have got the Shiva, the Linga, on behind that there is a shadow. People could not even understood how the shadow is being created. There is no pillar for which the shadow can be made there. So when you look at it, you understand we had great science of understanding all the trigonometry, all the shadow creation, all the science and mathematics behind it. Samburnam tribhujam tasya gandadvayam apicha tal samam cha chadushkonam tanmadyam nirbhidyade. That which the sutra and that verses which talks about all these trigonometry, mathematics, triangle, relationship between the chaya and the pillar, which is also understood, which not by Pythagoras. Though we call it as Pythagoras, we can understand it is not Pythagoras. But some CBSE textbook have written a small text saying that this was also called Baudhyayana's theorem. That is not enough. Baudhyayana lived much earlier than Pythagoras. So we should call it as probably Baudhyayana's theorem, and then say that it was reinvented or recorded, probably proved by Pythagoras later. This is what the knowledge of the next generation should have. Brahmandam and Pindam relation I told. From the construction, from the sun, for the solar system. The Paramanu, how do you realize? When I talk to chemistry teachers, I keep talking. I'm taking random examples from different subjects like mathematics, physics, chemistry, etc., etc. And then when I talk to chemistry teachers, I keep talking where we have a bucket of water, put a torchlight, and then you see the small light going through that. जलांतरे गदे भानौ यत् सूक्ष्मं दृश्यते रजः तस्य त्रिंशत्तमो भागः परमाणुरिति स्मृतः. The definition of Paramanu is given there. When you look at the sunlight passing through the light, the water, you will see small particle moving in a dark room. When the slit of light goes, you will see a particle moving. That's called Rajaha. Tasya trimshattama bhagaha paramanu didismradaha. Divide that into 300 pieces, you will get a paramanu. That is what is an atom. So with our naked eye, with a lot of imagination, people could see even paramanu. So it doesn't mean the imagination doesn't have a role to play. Imagination has a great role to play for every scientist. So paramanu swabhavataha nityam, and that if you don't understand that, you cannot imagine that, then the poet write one more line, nani nam drishti gocharaha. If you can imagine, then only you can see this. So it is understood nani is one who has got a lot of imagination. Nani is one who can have sankalpas. So this sankalpa is what makes every scientist a real scientist. It is not that the Purana talks about something and in which they have created the lot of sankalpas, and the sankalpa is not what is to be understood. That sankalpa is to create the science behind it. When Rama went to Lanka and then Vibhishana presented the Pushpaka Vimana, don't see that in the chapter 123 of Ramayana, whether the Ashwins are there and then it is not there. Actually, I told you that Idihasa Puranas don't talk about this. You must go back to the Shatapada Brahmana, and in Shatapada Brahmana, in the Vedic literature, there is a mention of Agnihotra, and that Agnihotra, who has got a fire system which can create, the fire system is Agnihotra is fire system. I was an Agnihotri for long years, which can create that sort of a flying system, and which probably in Mahabharata also you can see the Yudhishthira going to the heaven. How do somebody goes to the heaven? That also can be seen, but that is not what is science. Science is probably we can see in the Yandra Sarvaswam, and later part in the ADs, we can see this being recorded by the so-called scientists of Indian tradition. The dating can be wrong, where he talked about the definition of Vimana, how beautifully defined. Even today, the modern system cannot define. Deshantaram yadbhag, from one desha, one has to go to other desha. There can be by road, by earth. It can go by water, crossing water. It can go by the space or akasha. So if you want to define Vimana, we have to discard the earth part, we have to discard the water part. So the next line says desha deshantaram yadbhag dvipa dvipantaram cheva. If both are disconnected by water, then you can have two ways. The earth part is removed. You can have by water or akasha. So the water also have to be removed. The third line talks about yo ambare gandumarhasi, which goes in ambaram. Ambaram is the akasha, the sky, the space. Savimana iti prapta. That means the definition of such things were understood, and that is not where the wrong brothers from Dayton, Ohio, or Millivilly in Indiana. I was there in Indiana for 6 months, 2 durations. I went to Dayton, which is a aircraft museum today. Probably that would have been started because of the wrong brothers memory. But we have not created a Dalpate memory in Pune or Thane or in Bombay, where he conducted in the Chowpatty beach an experiment of flying his aircraft 8 years before the wrong brothers in 1903 invented aircraft. He has done it in 1895. And there was a document created where he has given an advertisement in a newspaper in Marathi, Talpade. He wanted some fund for making his project complete. And he was not seen, his aircraft was not seen. There is a beautiful movie which is created, which is called Vimana. If you have not seen, see that movie. It has recreated the scientific learning strategy, pedagogy, and the method of learning all these, and the experimentation part of the real scientist who has invented a aircraft much before the real aircraft started in India. I am not talking about the concept in Ramayana and Mahabharata, but somebody has created such a experiment. We have got one book called Yantra Sarvaswa. In Yantra Sarvaswa, we have got what is called a prism, which can make different sunlight into 7 rays, and that I cannot call it a spectrometer. The spectrometer is the new name. The traditional name was Dantopramapakam Yandram. And you must see the 109th equipment in the 109th equipment in the Yandra Sarvaswam textbook of what is that he explains there. He explains that Dantrimsha Samyuktam 32 spare parts are there, and that 32 spare parts Navottara Shatatmakam 109th equipment Dvatrimsha Samyuktam with the 32 spare parts Tamo Bheda Pradarshakam, which can split light into 7 different parts. Danto Pramapakam Yandram. What a great definition of a spectrometer. And what has happened? The Delhi, we had in IIT, recreated the spectrometer just to show that it was not just a sloka and a story which can be recreated. So what is required for the Indian heritage system is to understand the Varaha Mihira's textbook, which talks about the Yandra Sarvaswam, needs to be reconstructed, recreated. Similarly, most of the knowledge which we are having spreading today, the youngsters, with a lot of support from the government system for conducting projects. I represent the Yoga University of Americas, in which I can give diploma and postgraduate diploma and PhD in the subject. Understand, it is not to learn Bhagavad Gita as it is and then start chanting. I have done it 3 times, 4 times, taught Bhagavad Gita sloka by sloka. But I am sure it doesn't work in the modern world as it is. So what is to be done? Recreate that into the modern world in the way people understand. That is why I wrote a book called The Gita Way. The whole Bhagavad Gita is being told in a different style as a question answer, as Arjuna has got answers from Bhagavan Krishna. The modern world student gets from the Acharya today, so that we can understand this is what is the way Bhagavad Gita can be implemented today in the. What is the SDG, the Sustainable Development Goals, which the modern United Nations talks about from 2015 to 2030? Understand, not even a single entity which is explained there cannot be. You cannot discard, you cannot show something which is not available in our Sanatana Dharma goal. So I have written a book which is called SDG, 108 Bharatiya SDGs. What is that SDG? Sanatana Dharma goal. What is Sanatanam? The Nitya Nutanam and Chirapuratanam, which is traditionally available and which is also applicable in the modern world. So for SDG for me is Sanatana Dharma goals. I have written 108 points from the Sanatana Varna. If you don't work fast, what happens is we learn little and we don't practice it. Acharyat padam adatte padam shishya sumedaya padam sa brahmacharibhya padam kalakramenacha. How do we keep knowledge? From a practitioner who understood the knowledge, we have to get 1/4. Acharyat padam adatte padam shishya sumedaya. Everyone who is listening to this must have some interest to get back to the with question and answer, go deeper inside, learn by themselves, then discuss with the peer groups. Padamsa Brahmacharibhya. Those who carry the spirit of learning inside them have dialogue, understand much better and higher grade. Padam Kalakramenacha. Later from your experience you can improve. This is the scientific learning strategy, the pedagogy or anthrogogy of learning system is also explained in our, and it just says that don't believe anybody. Don't believe when even somebody says Yukti Yuktam Upadeyam Vajanam Balakadapi Anyatranamavatyajam Apyuktam Brahmakadapi. Even a Brahma comes and says don't believe. You have to use your logic. Understand what is inside that. And then when you read maybe Ramayana, the Ramacharita Manasa of Tulasidas, you will hear Panchabhutas, but in a different style. Chidi Jalapavagagans, Smira Pancharijita, Yaha Adhama Shariraha. The body is created by all the Panchabhutas. When we learn this Ramayana with a scientific thought, with a logical thought, understand what is that he has written. When we talk about the real chanting of mantra om purnamada purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva avashishyate om shanti shanti shanti, the Brihadaranya Ishovasya Upanishads, when we learn this, look at what is infinity minus infinity, infinity plus infinity. The Veda Upanishad, which has got a lot of Shanti mantras, in each of the Shanti mantra, you can see the Panchabhuta concept, lot of science inside that. The Vedic suktas, the Agni Sukta, Apa Sukta, Durga Sukta, all this, the Purusha Sukta, Sri Sukta, you can see science within that. Understanding that science, learning that science is what is essential. And that can be done only those who have got a science background, scientific temper, understand what is to be understood in the real life system. And the whole purpose is we have our human being human who has got curiosity to learn, quest for learning. If you don't have that, you have got only life earning facility with your education. I'm sure the end of the day you feel, oh, I have not done anything to become a human being. And life has to be understood in that level with the Manasika Nanma, the value system which is to be understood by the self, the Sharira Nanma, the body, the Kudumba Dharma, Kudumba Nanma, Kudumba Dharma, my family, my people around me where I am living, understand that science. That is why the education system we had, the new education policy which talks about, which is but nothing is going to get implemented. That's why what I have done is, as in the introduction, my sister Lilita was telling that no, I have done the Grandma Child Care Shiksha Gurukulam, in which I believe that we need to have a life system which runs very fast. If we don't do it in the 3-2-1 world, it is not the 21st century education we should talk about. We should talk about third decade of 21st century. Life is moving very fast. In that, we need our teachers to be trained in the fast moving, and in which the harmony in heart is most essential. The mind management is most essential. So all these books have been written by taking care of how education has to take care of the Kudumba Samuha Manasika Rashtra Nanma, which understands the social human aspects of value system in life. And when that is to be implemented, that needs to be implemented from the childhood. That is why I have written the Grandma Child Care Shiksha Gurukulam, the Grandma Child Care Shiksha Gurukulam, which talks about the A to Z of life and how children have to be taught during the 10th. So you can see A, B, C, D, E, F, G, the ambitious beginning. The title itself has got the name ambitious beginning, and HIJKLMN, MNOPQRS, TUVWXYZ of the early child care education system. So I believe that we must take care of our traditional knowledge, implement that in all the slokas which we have, the learning which we have. That's why you can look at Nitya Sloka DrTPS. Most of the slokas which need to be understood and learned has been compiled together and made it into a small book, and each of the sloka has been explained thoroughly, the philosophical scientific reasons behind it in different articles. These are all available in my blog, DrTPS Nitya Sloka. You can take the chanting and then look at it, and starting from the child early morning waking up, what is to be chanted, which nobody needs to have a motivational sloka. The motivational sloka in the beginning, in the morning, as you wake up itself, talks about Karagre Vasate Lakshmi. Don't consider it as a religious god and praising the Murti and all that. Karagre Vasate Lakshmi. See the science behind it. The Lakshmi, the money is in my hand. And if you want money, the science behind the money, the work behind the money, the action, the god is Lakshmi's husband, that is Vishnu. So Karagre Vasate Lakshmi, when you say, you must understand I get money only when you do my action. That is how the Bharatiya Kshetra Sankalpa also have got a lot of science within that. Lakshmi married to Vishnu, who is the action god. And Karamadhye Saraswati. The Saraswati is married to the Brahma. Brahma is the god of PhD, research, curiosity, quest for knowledge, the creativity. If you don't have creativity, you cannot hold knowledge. So unless you have Saraswati with you, you cannot have Brahma. Brahma is there, but Saraswati is not there. It doesn't work. Both have to be married together. Karamule Sthita Gauri. We have got Shiva, who is the god of samadhi, the peace, the silence. I don't use the word meditation knowingly because samadhi, peace, have got a greater meaning. And in that level, if you want to reach yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, samadhi, that samadhi level, peace of mind you have to reach. The Shiva has to be with you. Shakti has to be there. You cannot be physically tired. You have got a headache and you are thinking too much about the worried mind and then talk about samadhi. No. Ramana Maharshi also says, Pranabandhanat liyate mana pranabandhanat. Control your breath. Liyate mana. The mind can be cleaned and you can dilute the mind. But it doesn't work. Jala pakshivat dinarodhanam. It's like putting the bird in a nest. As you open it, it will go. So most of the unwanted practices which we have today have to be scientifically analyzed, understood, put into research, get into the essence of it. Then we will understand very, very, very beautiful life. Where it has been created in the Satya Yuga, where we had beautiful forests, full peace of mind. Can we create that? Yes. Vriksha Ayurvedam understands how the balanced life has to be there. That is why when we talk about Sanatana Dharma, I talked about Sanatana Dharma is the Nutana and Puratana put together. There is another definition. Sanatana Dharma is Ishta Purtam. Ishtam means what is selfish for me to build my life. And Purtam is what is meant for the society. So when I do something for the society, what is to be done? I have to create Vapi, Kupatatakani, Devatane, Nanicha, Anna Pradana Mudyanam, Purtam, Ityabhidiyade. You look at the environment science. The environment science is cleanly explained here. Vapi, Kupam, Tadakam. All the water bodies have to be there. And you should have Anna Pradana Mudyanam. The fruit giving, the trees have to be planted. Which will give you, what is that which will give you? Ishtade lepade sorgam purte moksham avapniyat. You want moksha? You want the most blissful life in your life? You need to have such a system wherein your trees have to be planted so nicely with a lot of fruits. It is not showing and seeing. It is creating fruits and fruit-bearing trees. Annapradana Mudyanam. What a great environmental concept. Vapi Kupatadakani Devatane Nanicha. And it talks about one well equivalent to how many ponds? How many ponds equivalent to one running river? How many river equivalent to one vriksha? Dasha Kupam Eka Vapi, Dasha Vapi, Eka Nadi, Dasha Nadi, Eka Vriksho, Eka Putro, Dasha Putro, Eka Vrikshaha. 10 kids are equivalent to one vriksha. That means you have 10 people to live, you need one vriksha. Your responsibility of making your environment clean, that science is explained much, much better beyond doubts. I remember giving a lecture for the forest department, the global warming seminar long years back, in which Vriksha Ayurveda was explained, the grafting technology, the plantation, Uttamam Vimshidar Hastha, Madhyamam Shodashantaram, Sthana Sthanandaram Karyam, Vrikshanam Dveshavaram. Vriksha understand the directions. Sthana Sthanandaram Karyam. The distance between two trees are more essential to understand. And how? Yada Dikstan Praropayat. You have a tree in which one branch is growing towards eastward, and cut this and don't do grafting on the other side or in another side. It has to be grafted onto the same side. Then only see the grafting technology, understanding the direction. What a great biological knowledge, the science. These are all in the Varaha Mihira's Bahrit Samhita. The Bahrit Samhita is AD 5000. That means only 1500 years back. understand this is not the 500 years back knowledge which was documented 1500 years back. Okay, so you can see the photo, uh, uh, the vrikshadinam tejanam bodhinam tatha. So the surya brahmana, as the surya takes brahmana, the brahmanena drik, the plant also turns. You know the surya kandi, the sunflower, which also turns as the sun moves. You know, the observation of plants were really understood. And you want germination, the hailstorm which we can create today in the fridge, the defrosted, the ice which you take it and put the seeds inside that, the germination happens much faster. Vapidam karakon mr tatchanam janmagam. Immediately the seeds will become plants, or the seedling happens very fast. I have a book on seedling. Look at DrTPS seedling, that it talks about the life energy around the human being. The understand the evolution, the parinama siddhanta, jatyanda parinamam prakrityat purat, jatyanda parinamam prakrityat purat. The evolution which talked about not Darwin, much before the Patanjali yoga. If you date him between 200 to 300, or Mulgalopanishad, which is in 300 AD, you can see approximately 1700 years before Darwin, we have talked about the Jatyanta Parinamam, the Parinama Siddhantam. The evolution happens, the revolution happens, which understood the tissues. I gave example. The body heat, I gave example. And how the diagnosis and health can be given. Samhanascha, pranadascha, saumyatascha, sattvascha, ahara shaktidascha, vayasthaschi, balapramanam. All these have to be understood. This talked about the Susruta Samhita Vimana Sthanam, I think, which talks about how diagnosis have to be done. What is arogyam? What is strength and weakness of people? Narohitahara vihara sevi samikshakari visheshwa sakta tata samasattvavarachamavan aptopasevi cha bhavatya roga. The roga will not happen to those people who takes the samikrita aharam. How? Hidaharam. Hidam is not what is hidam for the ishtam, the happiness for the tongue. For the body, what is good has to be consumed. What food has to be consumed? The most of the diseases which disease, illness, DrTPS, disease, illness. You will see one video there. It is not that food alone. Sharira manaso yoga paraspara manuvrajit athara atheya bhavena taptaja. Hadayoga Pradipika talks about it. The body and the mind is such related. Lobha, shoga, bhaya, krodha, manavegan, vidharayet, lajja, irshadiraganam, abhidhyayascha buddhiman. If somebody can control all this, in Bhagavad Gita also it talks about sthidapratna sega bhasha. How do I become a sthidapratna? Arjuna asks, and Krishna talks about Lobha yoga bhaya krodha sthidatir muniruchyate. What you have got, all these fluctuations will create you problems. You know how much exercise is to be given. Adivyayama madakaso jara shardischa jayate hridaya dyuparodascha. What is that is to be done? For me, I am not going to do physical job, so I don't have to do all these physical exercises. I need to have my energy to talk like this for hours together, which I have. And when I do this, my pranayama is part of my lecture itself. So I don't have to do another pranayama. Understood? So, Laghavam karma samarthyam stairyam dukkha sarishtuda yoga doshakshayo agnivruthascha vyayamot upajayate. What I do regularly for my job, which I conduct my life, which in the normal practice is what gives me the energy. The quality of doctors. Today we don't have good doctors. Maitri karunyam arteshu. Maitri, they have to be friendly. Karunyam, they have to have all that kindness for the people. The karunyam for people. Marteshu, all such people only can become Vaidya Vrittis Chadur Vidhe. The four type of people who want all these qualities only can become doctors. Tattva Chinda, Prakriti. It is not what medicine I have in my shelf which decides the disease of the people. What talks about understand the body, understand the mind, understand the person with the age, and then create medicines from your garden. That was Ayurveda. It was not a disease and the treatment for that. It was a life science. It was a life science which understood by experimenting millions of people. The experiments in science was understood. Sakshat anubhava irdishto na srudo na gurudarshitaha lokanam upakaraya, which is useful for human being for not temporary treatment, but for blissfulness, wisdom for longer time, making people happy, not feeling happy, not feeling good. The doctors will ask you, how are you feeling today? Feeling is not important. How are you looking today? The cosmetics. Not looking good, not feeling good. These are doctors' job today. No, our traditional Bharatiya system was not feeling good, not looking good, but it was making people being good. Being good was important. That cannot be done without understanding which burthen has to be, which vessel has to be used for creating the medicine. That metal which we create, there is a great big vessel in Padmanabha Swami temple which is being washed by elephants, which can be used for cooking payasam, the porridge for thousands of people. You know that when scientists from Philadelphia came, they wanted to recreate the same metal which is put under 1600 Celsius. Below there is a coconut shell being used for heating the burthen, and on top of it we have got milk boiling in 100 degrees Celsius. The temperature potential difference is that much. Why the vessel is not breaking for thousands of years? The Philadelphia people wanted to know what is it, and they came and then hammered it and they made beautiful sound. They called that metal as bell metal. Saltapa Salpata Lanu Tam Kasyam. That is the Kasyam. Metal is Kasyam. They couldn't understand that is Kasyam. Tamram. They couldn't understand what is Tamram. And what is that? Goshak Krishthoba Dahridam. What is that which made Muktarangam Hittat? Muktarangam, a alloy which is created by an alloy which they wanted to understand. They couldn't understand. They call it as bell metal. What they did, they recreated in Philadelphia a beautiful bell with the same alloy which they understood. What happened was, when they wanted the inauguration, when the metal was hit, it broke into two pieces. You can imagine the modern science could not recreate. When the drainage system in Thiruvananthapuram from the temple wanted to repair, they wanted to break the drainage system. They couldn't break the pipe which was made there. That strong was the pipe. You understand, all this cannot be done without the knowledge of mathematics, physics, chemistry, archaeology. All that talks about these knowledges. So archaeology department have conducted a lot of experiments to know what is the science behind it. And now what we need is, we want to understand that and recreate it. Our number system was not just science. We have got in the Kadapayadi number system. Ka, ta, pa, ya. All these are 1, 1. Ka, kha, ga, kha. You count up to 1 to 9, it will become. Then when we say sha, ya, ra, la, va, sha. Sha is 5. Therefore, shashi means 55. So this is the number system in which we have used this number system to measure the meter in which the music is compiled and which raga it is. So music system had a lot of mathematics inside. What happens today? The musicians don't understand this mathematics. And Bhuta Sankhya had got different system of number system. I'm not explaining all this because it takes long time. Aryabhatiya number system is different. So we had different number systems, not one number system. And our Vedic mathematics knowledge, Ekadikena Purvena Nakhilam Navashkamam Dashaha Urdhvatoribhyam Paravartida Samajyadat Shashti Samanshtik Gunita Samuchayaha Gunakas Samuchayaha Purana Puranabhyam Chalana Kalanabhyam Shunyam Samyas Samuktayaha. Lot of theories behind how computation, arithmetic can become so fast in our fingertips. Right? We understood mathematics. Pythagoras theorem, I gave an example. The shadow concept which is in the right angle triangle, understood properly. Dirgha chadurasrasya kshanayaranju parshvanmani tiryanmani cha yat prit dhubai kuru. This is how the Baudhyayana explains this. The origin can be Aryabhadiyam, but retold in the, which is after 400 years or 300 years. Again, Baudhyayana mentioned this again and again. So Aryabhadiyam is not the end. Bhaskariyam, after that, it was talked about Lanka, Vatsyapura, Vandi, Staneshwara Suralayan, Avakahasya Rekha Deshandara Vidayani. Aryabhata understood the earth is round and talked about the sun and the moon revolving around it. But then Lagubhaskariyam talks about when it is morning in Lanka, Vatsyapura, Staneshwara Suralayan, the evolution happens, and therefore I can't call it as Greenwich meridian, Andardeshiya Rekha, the prime meridian, once upon a time was in between the Lanka and Vatsyapura. Where is Vatsyapura? Vatsyapura is Vatsyayana lived in that place. Where is Vatsyayana's place? That is Khajuraho. When you go to Khajuraho, you can see a small border there. I have been there and it is totally covered. And when you clean it up, you can see it is written Vatsyapura. And in that Vatsyapura, you put one stick, and Lanka you put another stick, connect them together, and that is called a prime meridian. Deshandara Vidayani. You understand? We understood east west. You understood where is the Deshandara Vidayani. The Greenwich meridian is the word coming. That is why I am holding it. So it is the prime meridian which we had in India much before probably the Westerner understood, and this is in the Lagubhaskariyam, which is not a traditional Upanishad or Veda, which is not in the Idihasa Purana, which is a textbook of mathematics. The Siddhanta Shiromani, which talks about the physics of the earth and the planets which attracts each other. Therefore, you need not connect all the planets and the earth together so that it doesn't fall on earth. Understood? There was a great question. How the gravity, not the gravity of earth, but the universal gravity, how the sun and the planet systems are balanced and going like this. Akrishti shaktistu mahitayayat gastam swa abhimukam swashaktya akrishyate tatpatati dabhavi same samandat kwapatattvayam khe. How does tvapatattvayam khe? How can it fall? Because each planet get attracted by each other, it is being balanced. This is called the universal gravity. The Bhugola and the Kavacha, it is not the earth is understood as the physical earth above which we have got the atmosphere. It was understood very carefully. Avaha pravaha uddhahastada samvaha suparipurvakau vahau saptamastu, 7 layers. Pavana puravaha. Pavana, the air, the atmosphere contains air. Kirtidaha, this is what is called as Sakurudaha hu Vorehi Shishyadhi Vridditantram, which talks about this. So the sphere, ionosphere, exosphere, modern science which talks about the atmosphere, exactly 40 or 42 kilometers. The diameter of that, the radius and the peripheral, the circumference of earth around that, all that was mentioned in our traditional textbook. Udayoyo Lankayam, when Lanka it is morning, Sa Astamaya Savidureva Siddhabure, in Siddhaburam, Yavakotyam, in Romagadeshe, in Rome, Ardharatram Syat. In Rome, when it is midnight, Lanka it is morning. This talks about how the earth was understood as globe. Sun has got 4 quadrants. And that quadrant, when it reaches in the morning and evening and the night, it is understood carefully by Aryabhadiyam, explained clearly. And I'm sure most of the scientists have understood later from these traditional knowledge system we have. And I talked about chemistry. I talked about the handbook of missions Amshu Bodhini, which was discussing about the sunlight, and the sound also was understood. VJIT Taranganyayena Tadulpatti Nyaya Shastram, which talks about which is the wave pattern which has got the sound. Sound is in the wave pattern, which was understood. Every not only sound, the light was also understood. How? The speed of light was understood. You can see in the early morning somebody takes water and then pour in water. That is what the advertisement of India's tourist department uses. I got a beautiful book recently from Ludhiana. They gave me the Spirit of India, beautiful book. When I opened this and then see the tourism department, not only the tourism, each instrument which we have talks about the science behind it, because we had great science behind all the musical instruments which we have, and in which I have seen when you have got the tourism department, they have got a little water taken by a saint and then pouring back to the water. Why are they crazy pouring water back? During that time, they are supposed to chant a mantra, and the mantra is Yojananam Sahasre Dveshade Dveja Yojane Ekena Nimishardhena Kramamana Namastude Yojananam Sahasre Dveshade Dveja Yojane 2202 Yojana. Yojana by National Science Academy is 12.11 kilometer. So the first line says 2202 multiplied by 12.11 kilometer. Ekena Nimishardhena, in half of a nimisha. Nimisha is the time taken for your eyelid to go up and down once. Or in a lotus flower, one petal, the sharp needle to cross, how much time it takes? If you compute, it will become 1 nimisha, 0.28 seconds by National Science Academy. Divide by 2, ekena nimisha ardhena, half of that nimisha. That means 0.14 second. Kramamana namastude. I salute you, that sun who comes from this distance in this much of time. Any person who knows basic science, physics, what they will do, the distance and time is given, they will find the velocity and the speed, and you will get the speed is equivalent to the speed of light what is given by the modern science. So that means each priest, when they chant mantra, there is physics within that, the velocity of light within that. When the priest goes inside the mandapa, he chants ekajame ekajame trishyastame trishyastame panchajame panchajame saptajame saptamajame, arithmetic progression. Some god doesn't like arithmetic progression. The geometric progression is chanted. Ekam cha dasham cha shatam cha sahasram cha sahasram cha ayudam cha prayudam cha niyutam cha vaidam cha krayudam cha. What is this? Geometric progression. Understand, our rituals had got science within that. I remember when I was in space department, I had a book on Jane's biological and chemical defense book, which was printed from America. And the first page, which talks about the chemical biological weapons, the myth and facts. The toxic fumes were used in India as far as 2000 BC. I don't believe that 2000 BC, that is wrong. And in 400 BC, that is also wrong. But they have mentioned that they were using toxic fumes in India way back, not told by Indians. It was told by the most credentialed Jane's book of the United Nations Weapons Dictionary textbook, which is considered as the most authentic book in the biological and chemical weapons. They also recognize us in our war Ramayana, in our war Mahabharata. People have used toxic fumes to make those who have got white skin unconscious, and the other party have used those who have got black skin unconscious. That means a fumes which can affect based on the skin color can be used in the wars. Understand what a great knowledge we had during that time. We have used that in the war. That is what the Jane's magazine says. It is not done by somebody. It is done by the traditional knowledge which has been learned by Bhaskaracharya, which has been learned by Baudhyayana, Abhastamba, and Varahamihira, Aryabhata, Brahmagupta, Govinda, Mahavira, Sridhara, and then later probably which has been interpreted, understood by Bhaskara, Sripati, Jayadeva, and maybe Nagarjuna, and such people. So don't miss the chance of getting those knowledge for the next generation. That is what the aim and scope and the objective of IKS. We understood the measurement from 4.32 billion years to the 34,000 of a second. If we can have such a sushma measurement to the largest measurement, we had that great knowledge of that illusion that sankalpa, that decimal system knowledge to the mega knowledge. That is why we had Yada Brahmande, Yada Pinde, Yada Brahmande. As the atom size is, as the knowledge of this. And it is not what the, see, we had a great knowledge um, goddess which is called Saraswati. Where is that Saraswati? Where is that Saraswati river? We in the Department of Space had a great, that's the river. All the goddess names are all rivers. All the Sankalpas, all the Shakti Storupas are all rivers. Except one Brahmaputra. All the rivers are also called by the lady names of goddesses. Now, when we talk about Gange, Jayamune, Jaiva Godavari, Saraswati, Narmade, Sindhu Kaveri, Jelismin Sannidhim Guru Ganga, Yamuna. Ganga is in the Himalaya. I had been there. The top were the starting. I went to the Kailasa for the Parikrama. During that time, I have seen where the Ganga is starting, and then it submerges inside the Himalaya. It comes out in the Ganga later in the normal Ganga which we have. And then Yamuna, we understand the Uttar Pradesh, Delhi area. Gangeche, Yamune Cheva, Godavari, we come to Godavari, Andhra Desham. Saraswati, it talks about the geography. Each river structure, when we talk about the science of geography, is explained. When we talk about Saraswati, we had a confusion where Saraswati have to be understood. In Department of Space, we have got a department called them, wherein we have to understand the resources under the earth where water is available. When that was given as a project, when Radhakrishnan was the NNRMS, National Natural Resource Management System head, there was a book created in which the archaeological sites and its Indian heritage came as a depiction. Much before that, the work started. They have, what they have done is in the Rajasthan and Gujarat border, they have identified water under the ground from the satellite image using the thermal bandwidth, the thermal bandwidth where the water is available. So many borewells have been dug. When connected to all these places where the water is available, we found that where we are getting water is once upon a time in the Vedic period where the Saraswati river was flowing. And the Saraswati river was remapped using the satellite technology in the late 1900s. Understand, the Saraswati river, which went down the earth in 3100 BC, may not be much before that. So Saraswati river existed there. When we say that Saraswati river is not there, so I don't believe it is not there, it is not seen. We had satellite image identified this. So probably we don't have that science today who understands what was there. So when we go to the archaeological sites of Aurangabad, we must understand once upon a time we had Hindu, Jaina, Buddha, which made statues there. We didn't had that sort of a mechanism to reconstruct a temple by digging the earth. But that is there. How did they remove that mud, which the waste which we don't want there, and where did they remove it? What is that they want? In today's technology, we need millions of people working for hundreds and thousands of years with a lot of equipments to recreate such a thing. Understand, our technology, our science, our architecture is much greater. Connecting our Rameshwaram to Lanka, we had in the Ramayana the stories where the Hanuman went. It is not that he can jump more than 54 feet today. Any monkeys cannot jump. How did they had? Now, what the astronomers, the astronauts of NASA, when they orbited, they found in a stone particle which was there. When you connect all of them, it becomes the bridge. And that bridge, they call it as Rama Bridge. How did they create this? That was a great knowledge which India had. So I am talking about the Adi Shankara who has created the number line in mathematics. Not just he was a spiritual man. He had a lot of knowledge about the science. So in India, we had spirituality, religion, faith system, temple architecture, and the mathematics, physics, chemistry, which we can see inside the knowledge of Ayurveda to music system, which are all clubbed together. We need somebody who will understand these connections between all of them, threadware between all these looped system, and that is what the Indian knowledge system should contribute in the years to come. I think I spoke enough, almost 1.5 hours, and this is good enough to explain little bit of different knowledge which we had, which is not the complete knowledge. But if this can give spark to somebody else, and if somebody can come and connect with me to understand the inner science of all this, I'll be the most satisfied person. What we learned, what I learned from my gurus, from the traditional knowledge which I had, where I have used this reference book for understanding little bit of my notes which I've taken from my gurus. If I can, or if I have got discussed a few of them from that knowledge system, and if I can connect and give it to somebody else, I'm sure the Varahamihira, Charaka, Patanjali, Baudhyayana, Vatsyayana, Kaudilya, Aryabhata, Sridhara, Lallacharya, Susruta, Bhaskara, Nagarjuna, Mayan, Madhavan, Mahadishwaran, and Shankaran, and all these Kadapayadi, Vadeshwara, Nilakanta has contributed in the Indian knowledge system can be passed on to the next generation. That is a great uh, contribution to the Indian science. But that doesn't make Indian science. Somebody who do research on this to understand this what is required. I've been introduced to this at my late 30s. If I would have been introduced much earlier, probably I don't have that much time to do research, but I kept on reading and learning every day. There is a small contribution from this. And when we give lectures, that become a polished knowledge, which I believe, oh, this is what I missed, so that I need to study more. So few more days I will have some interest in learning it, and sometime next time when we get some knowledge, again that will get added to that. That is what I'm doing. I'm not a great researcher on this subject, but I'm a learner on this subject who can um, uh, give directions to different textbooks available around us, where we can make people to have some interest. And if I could give that spark, I'm the happiest man. Thank you so much, my sister Lilita, for inviting me. And I'm sure there are few more faculty members in your department. And VJIT calls me once in a while for making such a endure. So thank you so much. I'm grateful to all of you for listening to this. And then I wish probably some questions and some discussions, if not available now, probably will come back with some questions. My number is there. Always you can connect with me and then talk to me. I'll be the happiest person to answer all the questions. If I have something here, I will be very glad. Thank you. Thank you so much. Pranams.
Uh, a big namaskaram to Dr. TPS for such a wonderful, vast, immense session which encompassed so many different fields. At the same time, it was a nectar to our ears, sir, really. The chanting of so many shlokas from the scriptures around Puranas, Itihasas, and from Bhagavad Gita, archaeological references that you gave, and the other references from medicine, from physics, from mathematics. Wow, the profound knowledge which flowed for the last 1 hour was like a blissful time in our life, which we can never forget. We are actually highly indebted to have a resource person like you. We would have had you as an offline resource person in order to answer all the questions by the participants who have had the benefit of listening to you today. Dr. TPS has rightly said his number is readily available and he's always reachable. You can text him, you can mail him, and get your queries answered and get a direction in which you can progress. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should end the session here. I once again sincerely thank the research person for accepting our invitation and being a part of this rich knowledge workshop that we are organizing under the IQAC Internal Quality Assurance